Hello faithful viewers and welcome back to another Transformers review. This time we are looking at the Dark of the Moon Deluxe class Darksteel. Now Darksteel was part of the fifth wave of the Dark of the Moon Deluxe class line, and he is a retool slash redeco slash remold, whatever you want to call it, of the Sideswipe figure from Dark of the Moon. Now the vehicle mode here is a Corvette Stingray concept convertible, which was the main difference that Sideswipe had between Dark of the Moon and Revenge of the Fallen. Of course, in Revenge of the Fallen, he had a roof, and in Dark of the Moon, he was this roofless convertible. And it's a very cool vehicle mode. Now, Darksteel's primary colour here is more of a dark brown, like Revenge of the Fallen Lockdown, rather than a complete matte black. He does have some nice teal flame deco going along the hood of the car there and along the side, just like that. That's very shiny and metallic and quite beautiful, and it complements the kind of the matte brown aesthetic going on here. He has very sharp translucent red windows all along there and exposed seats, which are just basically not cutouts, but they are stuck onto the back of his thighs. And I've always wondered where the seats go when they transform from vehicle to robot, and they just hang there is the answer. But they do have some actual nice detailing. It'll be hard to pick up with this camera, but yeah, there's some moulding going on the inside of the seats. It's interesting, but if you turn it around, you can actually see there is a steering wheel moulded in there as well. It is kind of like this, it's hard plastic, and it just hides itself away on the back of the torso. It is shielded by the windscreen here, so it kind of goes invisible in actual transformed robot mode. Plus there's a lot of kibble on the vehicle, on the robot as well, so all of this car interior is nicely hidden. If we look at the underside of the car, it's semi-obvious as to what goes what. The head is hidden thanks to some clever engineering there, but if you know the mould of Sideswipe, then the arms are there, and they will be the legs, and they will be the feet. It's interesting, it's decently, you know, it's semi-obvious, like I said, and you kind of get an idea of the primary colours of the robot mode, but we'll talk about that again in a little bit. So overall, this is a very nice vehicle mode, but I will say I do find that there are a few tabbing issues with it, and I experienced this trying to get it back into car mode. You'll see the reverse transformation later on in the video, but I don't think it quite tabs together as fluently as it possibly could, especially here. I do have difficulty sometimes getting the legs positioned properly in order for all of this to tab in, and there are kind of two kind of rectangular tabs that jut out from either side of this back portion, which these side panels have to latch onto, and I think it's more complicated than it has to be. It's not completely complicated, don't get me wrong, it's a very easy transformation, but I just think that it suffers a little bit. It holds together ultimately very nice, but there is a little bit of finagly, just frustration in getting that bit together. The car mode sort of rolls. There is some like resistance from somewhere, and I think it's either the robot mode bits just hanging low too far, or it's the wheels here at the front not having really enough clearance to spin round very well. But he kind of slides more than he does roll. Now he has around about 7 MechTech ports all over him. I don't actually have his MechTech weapon, unfortunately. This I could have got a mint condition complete Darksteel at TF Nation, but I eventually ended up getting a non-complete version here. I mean, the robot mode, there's nothing missing, it's just missing his weapons, and I got him from Bear's Toy Cave, which you can find on Instagram. They are looking to set up a physical store in Norwich, and I highly recommend you check out their stock. But what I have here is Dark of the Moon Thundercracker's MechTech weapon, and this is essentially Darksteel's as well. He came with just a redeco of Starscream's, and this is basically part of his stuff. This is the non-transforming side of it, and in terms of MechTech ports, Darksteel has one on either side of the car here. He has one on top right there. And I suppose you count his hands as well. They are moulded to be able to hold these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where the other two are, I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. So to transform Darksteel back into robot mode, what we want to be doing is classic Sideswipe, starting with the sides of the car and just unclipping these. and bringing them up just like so. Just like that. And you can see those are the rectangular tabs that I was on about earlier. Then you can come and pull out the arms from the sides there and get them out. Now, an interesting thing about the Dark of the Moon Sideswipe mold is that it's slightly non-movie accurate by the fact that the front of the car becomes the chest. In actuality, it should be the back. And it's a little bit of a controversial design change, I think. But anyway, let's pop the hood up just ever so slightly like that and just get it rotated back. And let's get the arms just rotated all the way around there, and let's just focus our attention onto the back. So we're separating out all of this and we're just getting all of the back junk out of the way for a start. Now with the legs, what we want to be doing is rotating that ever so slightly out, but taking the rear lights and let's rotate them up and out of the way like that, and that allows us to bring the tyre all the way around like so. Rotate all of this bit forward just like that, and then hinge it all back at the knee to create the chicken leg kind of orientation that Sideswipe, and I suppose Darksteel by extension, is infamous for. And then there is a kind of a fake toe sort of thing going on here, a stabilizer for his wheel foot, and just rotate that down whilst pushing the light back for more of a heel sort of thing. This is another departure from the Revenge of the Fallen mainline mold, where this would end up more being the toe and there is a thinner piece for the heel. But for the Dark of the Moon one, it wants to be the reverse, so there is greater emphasis on the wheel foot. And then on this side, we want to be doing a similar thing where we have that down like that, rotate the toe, but keep the heel back. And it will require some just experimentation just to get it correct, but that's more or less stable, I suppose. So turning our attention back to the top of the car and the top of the figure, we can get this torso plate out and rotate it up like that. And now we can bring the front of the car down and we can connect the torso in place just like so. And then let's fix up some of this backpack. So let's get the hood of the car down like that. And let's hinge the back of the car up like that. And then it's kind of personal preference what you want to do with these wings. You can leave them out for a bit more of a classic Sideswipe kind of look. I personally like to actually bring them in and kind of compact them to make the backpack less hideous, I suppose, because he does have quite a backpack on him. You can see that the head has already been revealed by folding the chest panel down, so we just want to be rotating the hands out just like so. And that is more or less Darksteel fully transformed into a sinister and sleek looking robot mode. So taking a look at Darksteel's robot mode in all of its sinister glory, it is a very nice silhouette. And there's a lot of personal preference that you can do with the arm blades and with the backpack. And this is how I like to display him, which is significantly different from Sideswipe. I like my Sideswipes with their sword arms bare, but with Darksteel I've got all of that apparatus up just like that. And it's a very nice colour scheme going on. You've got more gold revealed. I mean, it's more like a mustardy yellow really, but you just pretend it's gold. And it complements the dark brown and the teal very, very nicely indeed. Now, if we have a look at his head, it is an homage to Beast Wars Quick Strike, the review of which you can see in the top corner as done so by Anthony. And yeah, it's very reptilian, it's very snake-like, and there is teal along the sides and gleaming red eyes, and I'm hoping I'm not mistaken by saying he has light piping. So let's just give it a whirl. And there you go. That looks very nice indeed. If we keep our light shined just like this, you can see some actual detailing on the panel behind his head, and it kind of is reminiscent of his back rockets, especially what Sideswipe had in Revenge of the Fallen, which he very briefly shot at sideways in Shanghai. But you can just see some circles behind his head, and that's what those are meant to be. And then just continuing to look at the figure in greater detail, he has nice red lights on his chest there, and then you've got the gold carrying on. There's some nice teal detail there, very nicely sculpted kneecaps, and the wheel feet, which are more prominently wheel feet than the Revenge of the Fallen version, just as I said during the transformation, because of the way that the kibble is now situated on this figure. It is very nice indeed. Now, unfortunately, there is no escaping the fact that this guy has a lot of backpack kibble on him. And it's kind of like the design of the robot, you kind of just don't know what else to do with it. Now, he's meant to have these bits, because Sideswipe had those bits. But, you know, spread them away like that. And you've just got the majority of the car hanging off him. Now, granted, the Revenge of the Fallen figure wasn't that much different. He had an extraordinarily big amount of kibble as well. And we'll bring him in for comparison in just a few minutes' time. But he kind of has a bit more of a compact backpack, really. Whilst Darksteel here just has... it just feels a lot more noticeable, which is odd considering that this guy feels a lot more streamlined overall. It's kind of a paradox thing going on here, and of course he's still got those lights there. And with the personal preference sort of thing you can do, you can flare these out. If this guy was Sideswipe, I'd keep them out like that, but that also does look very nice. And then with the blades, you can rotate them if his arm doesn't want to do a reverse bend on me. And you can bring the blades down just like that and give him kind of like a battle mode sort of thing going on. Let's just do the other arm quickly. And yeah, there you go. That's kind of a battle-ready Darksteel that you've got going on there, which also looks very nice. In terms of articulation, Darksteel's head can rotate 360 degrees, it can tilt up ever so slightly, and it can tilt down ever so slightly too. The backpack is on a series of hinges, so you can do whatever you want with that. And as usual, I like it down. In terms of the shoulders, they are on ball joints and they can rotate 360 degrees all the way around like that. They can spread themselves out that far. There is a nice swivel at the bicep just like that, but it is hindered from going all the way around due to the arm kibble, especially in the up position like that. If you have it down, then you've got a full range of motion 360 degrees like that. You've got a 90-degree bend forward, and you've got a 90-degree bend backward as well, which is bizarre, but it's a thing that you can do. In terms of torso, there is nothing like an ab crunch, unfortunately. There is no waist articulation either. He has an impressive forward kick like that. He has a realistic back kick. He has a disappointing spread, to be honest. He has a rotation at the hip there of 360 degrees. He has many bizarre knee joints here. You've got the upper hinge there and you've got the lower hinge there. And then the feet can disconnect themselves and go out like that. So in theory, you've kind of got like an ankle tilt there. Overall articulation is actually very good. He's very poseable. You can pull off a load of dynamic positions with him. He has a little bit of a problem standing completely straight, I find. And that might be because of the way that this whole heel situation is. But I just find that he's always listing at a little bit of an angle. That's kind of straight there. That's not too bad. But overall, I am very impressed with his articulation. So let's compare him to the original guy. This is Revenge of the Fallen Sideswipe, the original Sideswipe, not even the sidearm one, the original mainline one. And I am kind of torn now. For the longest time, I thought the mould on the right here is the superior mould, and it probably still is, to be fair, but there is something very charming about this guy on the left. He feels a lot more streamlined, and I suppose aerodynamic, even if that's maybe not the most appropriate term for him, considering that he doesn't fly, but he feels more speedy, and that's what Sideswipe is meant to scream: speed. He's not meant to be a chunky monkey like this guy sort of is. He's got a massive backpack, and while I did say it is more compact, because you kind of can make that argument here if you look at it, Darksteel's is all along his back, and Sideswipe, he can't stand up to save his life, but it is more in a higher position and more compact. But from another point of view, there is more of it here, and it's kind of more hefty. Plus his mold is just thicker and beefier, in terms of his appendages, and his chest is a lot more bulky. So I'm kind of torn now as to actually what version I like better. I think both have their pluses and both have their negatives. And write in the comments, I suppose, which one you prefer. I think I probably will at some point do a more in-depth old versus new, comparing these two in greater detail. That would be an interesting thing to explore. For other comparisons, here is Darksteel next to Revenge of the Fallen Sideways. Here he is next to Dark of the Moon Roadbuster. And here he is next to Mysterio. To transform Darksteel back into vehicle mode, what we want to be doing, starting with the hands, and we're just going to fold these in like so on both sides. And then let's just undo all of this backpack and just get it flared out and out of the way, just like that. Come to the feet, and we're going to rotate these little toe spike things up, just like so. We're going to rotate the wheels out to the side, and then we're just going to try and fold up the legs like that. Getting the legs positioned quite accurately is a little bit of trial and error. You have to kind of figure it out really the more you get into the fully formed car mode. There might be some tabbing inconsistency at the back here, but we'll see where we're at when he's more complete. Come to the torso here and just unclip that bit there and thread it over the head, and you can put the hood of a car nicely in place like that. Get the sides just flared out like so, and he's almost done. As it happens, rotate the arms at the shoulders, getting them in like that, and then you can just rotate them in, take the torso flap and cover the head, and just get them in place. And then it's just trying to get the legs properly orientated. And that's really the most difficult part of this reverse transformation, just trying to get these legs in the right way and getting it all nice and neatly tabbed in. Little bit trial and error, because there's a tab at the back there. It's also difficult trying to do it this far away from the camera, because I am sat quite far back actually. Something like that, and then getting the sides in like that, and they'll help hold the back spoiler plate in place. Like so. It's just not feeling like it's all staying together very well, unfortunately. If I try and get the arms tabbed in all the way like that, it might be because I've got these hoisted up too far. Let's just disconnect the legs, leave them down for a second, and get the rest of the car body actually tabbed in properly, which is easier said than done. It's not difficult of a reverse transformation at all. It's just a little bit fiddly in places. I didn't have that down all the way, so that's part of the problem. So we're getting that in and we're getting that in, and then let's just take a look at these legs again, trying to figure them out. Get that sort of in there, just trying to hook that over, keep that, get that tabbed in. That's not correct. Get that tabbed in like that. That's more or less it. It is making the back feel just a little bit gappy here, but it's more or less done. It's not a perfectly held together vehicle by any means, but that's more or less the reverse transformation done, and it is a very nice vehicle mode. So that has been our look at the Dark of the Moon Darksteel, and I do like this figure quite a lot. I think I like this more than the original Dark of the Moon Sideswipe, because that guy was cast in a very dull grey plastic. This guy, however, is spitting full of colour, personality, character, you name it. He's gorgeous. Now, something to be aware of with this mould in terms of degradation. Dan's copy of Sideswipe has a shoulder malfunction. The ball joints have seized up, and thus he cannot fully transform back into vehicle mode. So it is just something to be aware of, that this mould is susceptible to his shoulders failing over time. And of course, the connective tissue of the shoulders, they are The ball joints on the ends are very thin pieces of plastic, so if they are starting to seize up, they are liable to snap off. So just be aware of that. If you own this figure, be sure to give it some good maintenance. But otherwise, if you've got one in very good condition like this Darksteel here, he is a hell of a fun time. He poses really nicely, he is just visually stunning, and he is an example of a very good quality deluxe class figure. I have no trouble whatsoever with recommending Darksteel to you, and I say get Darksteel over Sideswipe in terms of Dark of the Moon. Whether I can recommend him over the Revenge of the Fallen versions of Sideswipe or even the Studio Series ones, I'm not entirely sure. Ultimately, I think it will come down to personal preference as to what you prefer out of your kind of Sideswipe mold. But anyway, that is my look at Darksteel. So thank you everybody so much for stopping by and checking out this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share it around to help out the channel. And until the next time, see you all later.